Welcome wannabe kaiju enthusiasts. Today we're diving into the monstrous world of Godzilla, a series with more twists and turns than a roller coaster. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the sheer avalanche of Godzilla films, fear not, this is a feeling that many people have. This series has over 30 films in it. It is a very, very long series. I think it is officially the longest running film series of all time. That's why this series right here is to guide you through the kaiju chaos, offering quick reviews and recommendations on whether to dodge or embrace those cinematic films. And these films are known for varying in quality extremely, with some of them being really good to some being really boring, to some just being laughably bad. The good news is that even the laughably bad ones are entertaining as the good ones, because the bad ones are generally to the point of being so bad that they are good. They are hilarious to watch. So if it's bad to the point of being funny, I will also generally recommend those films because even though they are bad, they are kind of part of the fun. So generally, I will only not recommend one of the films if it's just boring and doesn't fit in with something you'd want out of a Godzilla film. Before we embark on this epic journey, make sure to obliterate that like button and subscribe for more monster-sized content. And if you enjoyed this video, rest assured that more in-depth reviews are on the horizon. Now let's begin with the very first film in the series, Gojira from 1954. Gojira is just one of the best horror films ever made. I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I love this film, and you most likely will too. I don't know almost anyone who doesn't like this film. It's just great. From start to finish, this film is non-stop intensity. Every scene with Godzilla is just extremely frightening, and it just sticks with you for hours after watching it. It has many of the pluses that I mentioned in my Godzilla -1 video, as everything of this film just seems to work. There's just so much to love about this film, as everything about it works. From the amazing miniatures that show the destruction of the cities to the really good monster design, the monsters looks really great in this film, and the destruction scenes set a precedent on what Godzilla and monster films would have to do to stay interesting. The destruction scenes in this film are just mind-boggling. The way that they were able to do this, especially in the early 1950s, it's insane what they were able to get away with. This film is incredible, even to this day. It holds up extremely well. There's many parts of this that the destruction scenes, the miniatures, all work just flawlessly. I remember watching this film for the first time around 5 or 6 years old and not really getting it, but this is one of those movies that the more you watch it, and also the older I got, the more and more I enjoyed it. There's just so much to think about while watching the film, and also the allegory is not just surface level. There's a lot more going on here than many of the other films in the series have going on. And like I said in the Godzilla -1 video, this set a precedent of what the other Godzilla films should be, because Godzilla in this film is not the good guy. He is frightening. He is not a good person. He is the villain, through and through. None of the other films really captured this, except for maybe Godzilla -1. Other films have tried to reach this film's peak, but just have failed time and time again. There's just so much going on with it, and it all works so well, and it has aged just so well. There's nothing about this film that I truly think is something that ruins it. There's no like fatal flaw to the film, if that makes sense. There's bad parts to it, but it's nothing fatal. It's just a great movie all around. And compared to some of the other films that we're going to be getting into later on in this video series, this one has aged extremely well. There is no goofy moments in this. There are some goofy things because it is a film from 1954, but it's not aged super poorly. It's one of those films that you could still watch now and be fine with it. Most people, even though it's in black and white, will still be able to watch this. And this film is also incredibly sad as well, as the scenes of death and destructions are based off what people actually witnessed during the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So many of the scenes show what it was actually like for the people who witnessed these bombings. And with just how horrific some of the imagery is in this film, it's horrifying to think about the fact that people actually witnessed very similar ideas to what is being shown. Because the flames and stuff is kind of almost exactly based off of what the US did to Tokyo with the firebombing, as I showed in the Godzilla -1 video. And unlike the films later on, you do not want Godzilla to win, because I know in the other films Godzilla takes a more anti-hero approach, but not in this film whatsoever. Every scene with Godzilla in this film is incredibly intense and frightening, as you feel fear as soon as you hear the footsteps of him approaching. Now, if I had one gripe with this film that I think ages it, it is the hand puppet. I know this may seem like a picky thing, but in every scene that hand puppet is shown, it completely takes me out of the movie. It does not look good. It's not a fatal flaw, but it is most certainly a flaw. It is a gripe that I have with the film, and it's just something that I think ages it just a little. It is something that has always bothered me, and I think it's just the hand puppet, when it's shown, is just pretty goofy. And it has those huge bulging eyes that just look really ridiculous, frankly. That doesn't really fit with the actual suit that is shown throughout the film. The one good thing about the hand puppet is that they don't show it that often, so at least it's not too distracting, if that makes sense. It's just only shown for a couple frames per scene, but every time it's shown, especially with the really bulgy eyes, it always takes me out. So it's just a lot of less is more kind of stuff, because the scenes that you see with Godzilla in the suit, I think, look really well, while the hand puppet stuff is pretty goofy. But it is a 1954 film, so I can't hold too much of that against it. It has aged. It's just aged better than a lot of the other films in the series. I won't say this is a film that hasn't aged. It has aged a little bit, but that is one thing that always stands out as aging to me, personally. I think the black and white also really helps with the film, because the black and white almost makes it look like wartime footage from the 1940s, especially from World War II, as the film looks like footage that got released from the war back in the day. And the black and white also adds to the dark and distressing mood of the film, because even though it was a limitation at the time, the darkness from the film adds to just how creepy Godzilla is in every scene, and he kind of blends in with the night sky. Some scenes you can barely see where Godzilla is because he just kind of blends in with the background, but the scenes with the fire is really good at showing Godzilla, because the flames kind of create this huge silhouette around the Godzilla, and it's just a frightening image, and I think it really works well for the film. And another thing to point out is the scores of this film is extremely good. The music is just iconic. Everyone knows the Godzilla theme. It is a famous theme, but not just besides that one. Every song in this film adds extremely to the storytelling. The song by the choir after the destruction of the city is just disturbing and really sets the mood for just how frightening and sad this film is. And this film truly is sad. There are parts of this movie that are just depressing to watch. It is a sad movie, especially compared to the rest of the series. This film is shocking to go back to, especially after you've watched a lot of the other Showa era film. Another part of the film that has allowed it to age quite gracefully is due to the great uses of miniatures and the extremely dark storytelling. Unlike other films of the time, there isn't really a happy moment in this film. It's all pretty depressing throughout. Many other 50s monster movies generally have a happy moment to keep the viewers from being too sad or depressed about this horrific situation that is happening to these characters. That moment does not come in this film whatsoever. Even the moments that should be happy, like the defeating of the monster, is overtoned by this era of sadness, as the main character had to sacrifice himself in order to kill this horrific beast. It almost feels like you're feeling the pain of Japan itself, as the war just destroyed this country. As you can see, people in this film are just heartbroken. You see families destroyed in instants. I would gather to say this is probably one of the most depressing 50s movies ever. This film is just sad throughout. There isn't really a happy moment. Even the death of Godzilla isn't something that, is truly happy, because this is a animal that they're killing, so they still feel bad about it. And it leads to a lot of talks about what humanity should do with nature, because this creature is man-made, because it is a creature that originally was pretty normal, but was created to this giant monster by the nuclear radiation from the atomic bomb. Godzilla in this film is mankind's fault. There is no one else to blame besides humanity in this film. Some of the scenes are genuinely devastating. One of the most disturbing scenes of the film is a mother telling her kids that they're going to meet their dead father soon, as Godzilla destroys the city around them. This scene is just horrific and really hard to watch, even for a 50s movie. And it really just sets the tone for this amazingly disturbing film. So of course America had to fuck it up, and I mean really fuck this film up. You of course can't talk about this film without talking about the 1956 American version, which America would release their own version of the film called Godzilla King of the Monsters, but the film was re-edited and refilmed with the scenes involving actor Aaron Burr. No offense to any Aaron Burr fans, but I don't think he really makes for a very good inclusion to this film whatsoever. He truly adds nothing to the film but adding context of what's happening to the American viewers of the film. And the new edits to the film genuinely ruin a lot of the frightening aspects of the film, as many of the scenes of destruction were either cut down or just completely omitted from the film, as they were afraid that the film would make what America did in World War II look bad. They removed all mentions of nuclear weapons and energy, as they were afraid of their appearance, but in consequence the original message of the film is completely and utterly lost, and the film is just turned into another 50s monster movie without that. The American version of this film completely ruins what made so much of the original film work, and ruined many of the things that made the original film so special in the first place. So when giving a final review of these two films, I would have to give them vastly different scores, because even though they are technically the exact same film, the American version just changes so much about what makes the original film just work. So because of all the reasons I listed below, I would say the original version of the film from 1954 is worth watching, and I give it a 9 out of 10. While the American version I would say to generally avoid, as it ruins a lot of the things that make the original film just work. So because of that, I give it a 3 out of 10.